Can you imagine something called No Place for Hate bringing people together? Because that's exactly what happened in Mountain Brook. And have you ever wondered what it looks like to make a difference in your community? Then you're going to want to stay tuned for this episode with Tyler Thrasher.
Welcome into Alabama Unfiltered. I'm one of your tri-hosts. Is that right? Co-host, tri-host? No, I'm doing that on purpose.
I thought you meant like I'm trying to host.
Y'all blew it completely. That was legitimate.
Okay, math person.
Yeah.
Yes,
three.
engineer, tri-host.
But
I was
we
trying
got
to
quad.
elevate y'all because I usually say I'm one of your hosts. And then co-host
say
is wrong.
Does
It's
co
true.
just mean two?
It's true. Yeah.
Is it like
co-host
saying a
too.
few or a couple?
I mean, I don't know. Is that
You know how we started saying co-conspirators?
No, I think it's
Yeah,
Greek.
it's try.
It's
You're right.
tri-host. I'm
Yeah.
one of your tri-hosts. Thank you. Allison is soon to not be because she doesn't like the use of language. But
Or
Amy
coffee
Beth
cups on the
Shaver
table.
is with us as well, and this is Alabama Unfiltered. It's going to be just as good as it usually is, so we hope you'll stick with us. Make sure you remember that you can find this podcast at all the usual places where all the big-time podcasts are. That is where we are. We were powered by 1819 News. Yes, I said powered.
I wanted to say something, but I kept my composure guard down.
Howard, we are powered by 1819 News. Go to 1819news.com. Sign up for the daily detail and the newsletter. It'll keep you up to speed on everything that's going on in the state of Alabama. Ladies, how are y'all?
We're good.
Welcome to the program. Are y'all ready?
I'm ready.
We're ready to go?
You know what? The tradition of jelly beans and sweet tart ropes
With a little bit of coffee.
is
Right.
delightful. It makes all the difference in the world.
Put your
You're
coffee
welcome,
on the
everyone.
table.
Do you want me to have the coffee?
It's
Yes,
okay.
put your
Yeah.
coffee on the
you
table.
sure? Because I'll have to
Just
go away.
No,
and
it's
break
okay.
out-
It's okay.
break up-
Just
He's
today.
breaking the fourth wall.
I mean, I just feel like
and
the fourth wall.
Yeah.
This is a very
I gotta-
professional podcast.
There we go.
So Scott is
Now
a
we'll
busy man,
survive.
and he can have his coffee.
So professional. I need which camera do I look at?
Yeah, none of them.
Actually,
Just talking.
they're going to use all of them. So you just look wherever.
Yeah. I mean,
Doesn't
wherever
matter.
the spirit
Okay.
leads you.
Right.
Should we introduce our guest?
Go ahead,
Or
because
have we?
people are trying to figure out who he is.
Yeah. So this is Tyler Thrasher. He is with Mountain Brook Families, and we're going to talk a little bit today about how that organization started. It really started around the same time that local Alabama that I started did. I think we were seeing a lot of the same things happening in our school systems and with COVID and masking. And so tell us about Mountain Brook Families, how y'all got started.
Yeah, and I blame you a little bit for it. We could
I
probably
knew that was coming.
I do that all the time. It usually works.
I'm an easy target.
so we could probably get into those details later. But basically, if you go back and look at around the time of June of last year, that's when the whole issues at Mountain Brook kind of started with the concerns from the parents. So there was a program called No Place for Hate that was implemented into the school systems. And so we weren't getting a lot of feedback from like the schools. Like there was parents asking questions, raising hands, and kind of went on, deaf ear. And so that just kind of festered up till it kind of blew up basically. And a couple hundred parents like stormed the Board of Education their next meeting. And from that meeting, Mountain Brook Families kind of grew from that. So there's pushback on the No Place for Hate program, but there's a bunch of parents out front. We're all talking. And that's literally where most of us met for the very first time.
Right.
And we knew if we're going to do something that's going to be effective and like kind of watch our schools or whatever, we were going to have to organize. Like busting up in a Board of Education meeting, all hot-headed and tempered, you're not going to be that effective. But if you can organize, as a collective voice, and then kind of get with reasonable minds,
Right.
you
So
can be a
let
little more
me get this
effective.
straight, because I think some people may not be familiar with, because you're intimately familiar, and
Yeah.
y'all apparently know. So the Mountain Brook school system was putting in some sort of training or
That's right.
teaching or whatever.
That's
No
right.
place for hate.
That's
Which is,
right.
hey, we agree with that.
That's right.
And then so parents had questions about what is this? What exactly are you teaching? I guess, does it have something to do with CRT?
That's right.
What happened? And you get basically no answer. So parents do the right thing and say, okay, we want to go up here and we're going to find out. Now,
Yep.
after that first meeting, did the school board say, oh, here it all is?
Not so much. So just to back up a little bit, there was an incident that happened, and it was, it was pretty bad. incident. So there was a event where a kid had a swastika painted on his back.
Okay.
And there was a student maybe involved that was from the Mountain Brook area. I don't think necessarily from the school, but there was other school systems involved in that event. And from that,
was this at a ball game or?
It was a spend the night party or something. I don't know.
Okay, so something.
So it didn't happen on school
not on school,
campus,
not on
off campus, people doing
somewhere else.
dumb stuff.
Wow.
That's right. And so it's that's a horrible experience, to have happened. But from that, it was kind of this 911 knee jerk reaction. We got to fix, we got to come up with a plan. Right. And so that kind of pushed forward this plan of getting something instilled to kind of help with this PR issue at the school. And that's kind of where the No Place to Hate got pushed in.
Okay.
So, so a lot of parents, they were looking at this program and you're not getting responses back from the school. So what do you have to do? You have to go dig yourself, look at this information. What do they have?
Right. Who published it? Who produced it? The whole 9 yards.
And the deeper and deeper that you get into that material, they start pulling in all kinds of other things, and so when you're not getting response from the schools, the parents are left to think, oh my God, what's coming in,
right.
And that was a concern. That's what really blew everything up. And the interesting thing about that is folks in the community that kind of oppose our views or whatever, like they've called us anti-Semitics, racist, white privilege,
right.
all this, and they don't even know who we are. We are sitting in the stands with their children, with them watching their kids play softball or soccer with our kids.
Right.
We're just normal people, but now we've been called all these names. Right. So
and they're saying it anonymously.
Well, they're just saying, Mountain Brook Families or whoever.
Oh, that's a bunch of racists. Okay, because you're opposed to
the No Place to Hate.
No Place to Hate.
That's right. And so, but if my counter to that is let's flip the script. Let's say the NRA brought in a program that the school board had brought in.
Right.
And then you were calling the school and you were saying, hey, I don't want these conservative values taught to my kids. And the school wasn't responding to your response. You would blow up. And so we would be mad about the same thing if they sat down and listened and judge, our actions and stuff. So we would both be mad if you if the roles were reversed.
Yeah, and it's tough because, and I think this is across the board, and what we're seeing on a federal, and especially a state level, and even the local level, there's not much transparency. It is very difficult to get answers, and we'll probably talk about House Bill 123, the Mental Health Services Coordinating Bill. And it's just like everybody's left to come up with their own ideas of what it is and what the motivation is and what's behind it. And it's very frustrating and it's actually very dangerous. And I think that as, you're looking at Mountain Brook and the superintendent and the board, it's like, come out and just say what it is. People, you were elected to lead. And if you're going to make a decision, make that decision and stand behind it, but be transparent and honest about it. And let the parents decide, hey, maybe this isn't where we need our kids anymore. Or maybe we need to, it lets parents have an option and an opportunity to be a part. But if you continually shut it down, you're not getting anywhere. And it just breeds distrust. And so it puts you in a corner, as like you say, the other side would be if they weren't getting answers too. So after that happened and after you go to the school board meeting, you said apparently it didn't go so well, but what happened after that?
So kind of get back to your answer from that event, that's really what formed Mountain Brook Families. That's because there's a lot of parents that push, and there's a letter that went out, and literally in 48 hours, they had over 600 signatures in the Mountain Brook community for that letter. And it was all in support of, hey, these are our concerns with this program, blah, blah, blah. And there was families that wouldn't even sign it because they were afraid if they signed that letter, like it could impact their business, people who harass them in the community, all that stuff. So even though it was just 600, it was more than that because I know people that wouldn't sign it for that very reason. Right. And so the community pushed, and we put pressure on the school, and then they said, okay, we're pulling this out. But the thing is they said this material is proprietary, so we never could see it. Parents could never see the materials, and they had already trained 500 teachers, and they still wouldn't let us even sit in on the meeting.
Would they have any? Would any of the teachers speak out and tell you what was going on in it? Did they sign an NDA or something?
So we've had teachers sign share information from that training, but they will not publicly come out and speak because of the ratifications of.
Right, the school board will be upset with them or whatever.
Yes,
on the back. So this group who is doing what's best for children,
Right.
going to teach children how to be good little children and good little citizens and have no place for hate,
That's right.
don't want anybody knowing exactly what they're teaching.
That makes sense.
And they hide behind it's proprietary.
Yeah.
Is that a company,
So
or
that's-
is that an agreement between?
That's what the board and superintendent said. So we had attorneys also looking at it, but we could not sit in. They couldn't share the information. It was all proprietary, and so they ended up pulling out of that contract. And like we had hit pieces on our families from the ADL, just writing about our community as a whole, but also
The Anti-Defamation League.
That's who
So why is
that's
the
who does the No Place for Hate.
Yes.
Oh, they're
programs.
the ones who have it.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. We
I
left
didn't know
piece.
that.
And so the ADL historically has been a fantastic organization. Like they've done a lot for the Jewish community, but lately, and I can't remember when the CEO took over, but if you go look at his profile, his main charge is to bring in other issues under their umbrella outside of just protecting and doing what they've done for the Jewish community. And so that's when you start uncovering that onion. That's when you see all this other stuff that they can bring into your school. But when you have all the parents push back, they were able to pull this out of the school, so it's not going to be given to our children to learn, not taught to our
Okay.
kids. Although they continue to teach all of our teachers. All right, so they pulled it out, but they went ahead and finished all the training with all of our teachers. And I don't know the person's name, but somebody from the ADL that was very vocal said that was like the strongest pushback they had ever had, like on their program. And I believe we were the first one in the country to push ADL out of our school system. And they were even quoted as saying, well, you've got 42 schools in Huntsville that successfully implemented the No Place to Hate. We don't know what their problem is,
Right,
So they're trying to throw that all back in our face. But they said it was the strongest pushback they've ever had.
Don't you think it's like the classic, when you go to your child's bedroom and the door's locked and they won't let you in, and the longer they won't let you in and let you see what they're doing or know the more you're like, this is no good. They could be reading their Bibles.
Yeah.
But if they won't let you in, you're, and it's like,
Pretty sure they're
imagine
not.
if they had just shared the information
Oh my gosh.
and how much sooner this could have all ended,
Yes.
because it's still going on to this day. I mean, it's still affecting the Mountain Brook community.
to this day.
Yeah.
And transparency is the word that we use in our community. And if they would be more transparent, and I honestly feel like ADL would probably still be in our school today if they would have been more transparent. And I know a lot of people probably get
Wow.
mad at me saying that.
Yeah, but that's if you know exactly what they're teaching.
Yes.
I mean, you say that thinking
right.
they're teaching the best, but they could have been teaching a lot of lousy stuff
That's
too.
right. That's right. And
So, yeah, if they've been more transparent and been doing the right thing, like they claim,
yes.
but there's no way that they're just teaching. I was going to say they're not just teaching do unto others. There's no way that's what they're teaching, and that would be simple and easy to do because they would be open about that. They would tell y'all
That's
that.
right.
Have you been able to find anybody at the Huntsville school systems? Any parents who know what their kids have learned since y'all couldn't?
Yeah, there's
Find out.
and through local, we kind of keep a pulse up there, but
Okay.
there's been a little pushback, but no one has tried to push out the program out of their school like we did in Mount Brook.
I would just like to know exactly what the program actually does. And that's the fascinating thing to me is you said it's divided your community. That means the people who are mad at you don't know what's in the curriculum. And the people who are on your side don't know what's in the curriculum. So everyone's fighting over some philosophical
Right.
Well,
holy grail up here that
they're going to be
which
mad
side
at
are
me.
you on?
May
right
or may
left?
not even
Well,
exist.
they're going to be mad at me just by walking outside my front door. So there's all you're going to have, and we talked about this earlier. You're going to have like 5 to 7% of each side that's just psycho, crazy folks, and all they do is attack. That's all they know to do is just attack.
It's kind of their entertainment.
It is. It's like that's what they live for. It's almost like this religious complex that they've created, and they just need that. What am I going to get pissed about this morning? Can I say that?
Yes.
So I didn't know.
She
That's
says
as far as you
she
can go.
says way worse than that usually.
But you see her off camera.
I make worse. Tyler, my child's in the room next door.
You can't hear this.
That's
So,
right. Yeah.
but
Jeb, close
but,
your ears.
So if we can push that noise out and get the like the 85% to sit down at the table and talk, that's who I want to talk to. I don't care about what somebody calls me. I've been called white privilege outside City Hall.
Right.
so
Well,
they-
man, when you walked in
know,
the door, I thought white privilege.
Well,
I
That's how
did. I
fancy
That was the
really,
first thing.
I really thought that.
well,
yeah.
But
so
you've
funny.
reached. I'm going to try and save you because I just want to call you an Easter egg.
Right.
I'm like a candy striper. You're the nurse, and he's the professional.
Yes.
Yeah,
Today.
I'm the CEO.
You're the CEO, but you really have talk about because you reached across. I mean, you've had some meetings with the other side, and
Yep.
it's funny that suddenly when you sit down face to face and you're not behind a computer screen,
Right.
it's human being to human being, and there's
Yep.
value and respect in that. So
Yes.
kind of you've reached out, and that's impressive.
Yeah. So so like I said, I don't talk with the noise. I'm never going to change their minds. They're always going to be mad at me at something, and I'm fine. You know, they've thrown darts at me all the time. But for the people that want to sit down and like talk, we'll sit down and talk with them. And so we've kind of taken a black eye, Mountain Brook Families, in our community for the sake of not driving more division, because it's pretty much all a trap. How it works is that they'll come, they'll make a comment, and then if you comment back, then they just hammer away at you. And then what they'll even do is they'll even go back and clean up their comments and leave yours out there. So when people read it, they look like angels and we look like horrific people. So I'm like,
Saul Alinsky 101.
there we go. So, I don't respond to all that. So, but what I tell folks is the truth will slowly come out, and not to get biblical, but it will set us free. And so we've taken some jabs on the chin. There's people that create a narrative for us because we set up as a 501c4, and we specifically set up that way to protect the people that want to be a part of us and the people that donate. And so the other side will take that information and they'll say, oh, 501c4, it's dark money. I even heard one person say that we took money from New York. I'm like,
Because they're so conservative.
yeah, I'm like, well, wouldn't you want to?
And they were so transparent.
Yeah.
So
I'm like, wouldn't
Okay.
you want to join our organization if it came from New York?
Yeah.
Like, so anyway, I don't get that one. But, and dark money, and they got, they're political and all that. And what's crazy is if somebody is conservative or just have values differently, we're not even a conservative organization. We have people in the middle of the road. I know we have Democrats in our party, or not our party, but in our group. And so we try to keep all that neutral, because I don't want to
you're
make them
focused
upset.
on what's happening
Right.
at Mountain Brook Schools.
Yes.
You're not worried about
Imagine.
That's right.
right.
And so, but we get accused of being political, and trying to throw all
But
that.
the other
So,
side's not.
not at all.
Right.
But they throw all the spheres, and all that stuff. So if we take the bait, then what will happen is we go in the community, and then it's a big fight, and then everybody's just not going to listen. So we've just taken the jabs. So I've been called.
Not the jabs,
No,
but like the.
if you want to take the jab, that's your right.
But,
But not
right.
I'm not boosted, so you're sitting pretty close to me.
Right. I'm okay.
So
I think Allison had the same kind of experience. I know Amy Beth did years ago. And when someone gets involved in an issue like this,
yeah,
you probably thought, hey, look, I'm just trying to do what's best for my kids, what's best for the
right.
community. And then you roll out there and
Yep.
realize, oh my gosh, people are
mean.
going to be coming
Yeah.
after
They're
me
so
and they
mean.
disagree and they'll
Yeah.
say anything.
And they're not
I
your
mean,
friends.
so what was has it been startling to you? Were you expecting it? I mean,
I just
Mount Brook's
expect
supposed
it.
to be very genteel and
Yeah, until you ruffle feathers.
Proper.
Proper, all that. But
I mean,
it
there's not
is,
supposed to be any hate. There's no place
Yeah.
for hate there.
yeah, and it's all inclusive. We want
Right.
we want to accept everybody as long as you accept our views.
Right.
And I found out that's really not true, because I have different views, but yet I'm being attacked. And what's so crazy is like they'll even say things like, "Oh, all that hate's just learned in the home," like just spewing out. I'm like, well, look at my kids. Like, look at the, you can ask them about our church, their school they go to. Like, they're the poster child of their school. Like, everybody loves them. Substitute teachers catch me all the time in the hallway or something. I just love your kids. I mean, there's so much hate spewing out of me at home that
Right.
it
That
just
turned them into very good students and
Yes.
citizens, and
Yeah.
everybody loves them.
Yeah.
Right.
So none of it makes sense. So anyway, just getting back, once folks sit down and talk with us, and this is where we've had a lot of success, then they realize, like we have, I was called anti-Semitic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we push back on the No Place for Hate, well, that's tied to ADL. And there's a lot of Jewish people in our community that have respect for ADL. And so they heard me say, I don't like ADL, but it wasn't the ADL. It was a no place to hate.
Right.
So now moving forward, what we have to do is just reach out to our Jewish neighbors and let them know, no, this is what it's about. And so Rabbi Wright actually did a message when all this was really hot. And he kind of was trying to lower the temperature on the whole situation. And in his message, he framed it up so well, but he told the congregation that, you know, the people that was pushing back, they weren't pushing back on the ADL. They was pushing back on the no place for hate, the information that was coming to the school. Like, and we have at Mount Brook Families, we have a high value on ADL. We respect that organization.
Right.
We also respect our Jewish neighbors, and we love them, and we hate the fact that they have so much stuff that come after them.
Right.
You know, and all the issues that they deal with, and we're trying to come up with solutions, right? So we've opened up the door. Going back to Rabbi Wright, but there was two sides of that equation with the ADL thing. And some of this goes back to communication and transparencies with the school. So when we pushed back, that was like they got hit with a dagger from us, right? And then the school, when they pull out of the system, they use words like, we disassociated with the ADL. And now on the other side of it, they're getting jabbed because of the communication, the words that the school used.
Right.
And then I think they even had to go back and backtrack on that a little bit. So our Jewish neighbors are like getting hit from all sides.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
And so I recognize that. So now we've made relationships with some of the Jewish leaders in the community. And we're actually working on things like, you know, for example, things that just kids are going to say things, right?
Right.
There's no way to stop that.
Right.
But, you know, after talking to them, I can imagine, you know, my daughter goes into Sunday school one morning and she hears the story about Jesus dying on the cross and like the Jews killed Jesus, right? And then I could see her not being able to comprehend really what that means.
Right.
Okay.
And then she goes and her Jewish friend that sits next to her, she says that message again and says that to the Jewish friend, well, you killed Jesus.
Right.
You know,
Right.
yes, that's going to hurt. You know, that's so anyway, all these little instances that happens, like how can we come together as a community to help? We won't ever be able to stop that. And some of it's just pure ignorance, but there is hate, and you'll never stop hate. Like, as long as people are alive, there'll always be hateful people. But, you know, how can we come together as a community and help our Jewish neighbors? I think 60 to 70% of the Jewish community in Birmingham lives in Mount Brook. So it's about 3,500 people in a 22,000 member or community-wide community. So basically, you know, what can we do to help bridge that gap, to help lower, you know, and one of the things that really when we talk around the table with the school administration or about the school administration, all that, is if they would just enforce the code of conduct, that would be very helpful just to start with. And so when these instances come up, if they knew that, hey, X, Y, Z is going to happen, there's no place for this, like a lot of that would stop. And this isn't me coming up with this.
Right.
This is talking with the Jewish leaders in our community. And
Right.
we agree, going to the table, we agree, enforce the code of conduct. And
Right.
they
Well,
said
if
the same to
everybody
us.
treated everyone the same way, regardless of whatever their background is,
Yep, the golden rule.
then a lot of these things would solve themselves. You wouldn't
right.
have to have special training to say, hey, you need to make sure you're nice to this group. Make sure
right.
you treat everybody the way you want to be treated, and that would solve it. And how long did this take?
Yeah.
3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds,
Yep.
and get on to the kids who are doing something wrong.
Yep.
So there's got to be more to these trainings, these curriculums
Yep.
than just let's teach people to be nice to each other, because that doesn't take a tremendous amount of time.
Yep.
Yeah. It's there. I don't know. I don't know if we want to get into it, but there's a motivation there. There's an underlying something. And I think, I don't know if you want to talk about SEL, because that's kind of where it went after that.
Yeah.
That was your next thing. But like yesterday, my daughter, who's in 8th grade at a public school, she came home with this sheet and it had like 10 questions on it. And I didn't see the questions. I just saw the answers. And so I went back and I said, where's the question sheet to this? Because most of them I could tell were like, what's your favorite thing about school? What's your favorite class? What's your favorite, you know, what do you like to do? Do you have a pet? Whatever. Okay. Get to know your students. Well, one of them, all that was written was good. And I was like, what's this question? So I emailed the teacher and asked for the questions. And the question was, how is your relationship with your parents?
Yep.
Really?
Yes.
Yes. So in between what's your dog's name, do you have pets is, and she just wrote good because I had talked to her about, they're going to ask, this is what's coming in with social emotional learning.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to divulge, all your everything, because they're going to start poking and prodding. And I'm like, what does that have to do with the first day of school of getting to know? What is he going to do with that?
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is what is kind of is, and I think the other side wants to say, y'all are crazy, y'all are conspiracy theorists. No, it's happening. We've seen surveys that have started coming out, and we know that this is there and what they want to do with that information. So I guess second step is what Mountain Brook uses.
Second step, which is
for their SEL.
Tied in from Castle, Committee for Children. Second step is all like, just talking about.
So Shelby
the
County
three
uses
speakers.
Castle.
We use Castle, and let's define what Castle is for people who may not know what that is.
Yeah. And well, you can talk about, Castle, second step. It's all just different programs. It's like saying I have a car, I have a Ford, I have a Toyota, whatever.
Yes.
To implement social emotional learning, which is all the buzzword, everything that's happening. It's all these competencies that these kids have to meet to be healthy adults when they graduate to go into the workforce. It's insane. It's very complex, but we're finding some common themes between all of the programs.
That's right. And not to get too deep in social emotional learning, because when we talk about HB 123, we'll kind of touch on a little bit, but basically when you have these programs coming in, so right now, if you go look, so we adopted the second step curriculum, right? And that was another one of the programs that I couldn't get a password for at home. I had to take time off from work and I had to go to the school to review it. All right.
Wow.
And I had to sign a waiver that I wouldn't record it, take pictures, or do anything like that.
Did you ask them why?
Because it's license agreement.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, but they're going to teach it to our kids.
Right.
But
And
you
the
can't.
teachers.
But you
But I
can
can't
record
say,
it.
and there's like
Sure.
there's a law in the state of Alabama where you're supposed to be able to see
Right. Yes.
everything.
Right.
So I don't know why.
that's a good question.
I don't know why we can't.
That we have a law that you're supposed to be able to see what your students are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
learning.
So why not make another law that says you cannot sign for software or app or anything in your school that parents cannot have immediate access to without taking off from work and signing away their rights.
Right.
So there was a group of parents up in Utah. I think it's Concerned Parents of Utah. I think everybody knows of them, but they vetted this material. They spent 140 hours. I don't have 140 hours. I have a job.
Right.
So I took off from work on a Friday and I went up to the school and I literally had their information. I just went in and just made sure it was checking the boxes to make sure it all lined up. But pretty much if you look at the programs and the shiny brochure on the front, like it makes sense. Like, and to give you an example, my daughter, she had a problem with the kid at school and they had to go to the counselor, work it out. And she came on with some material. And of course, I saw the Committee for Children. So I'm like, what are, but it's pretty clean. But what you got to do is go back and look at these organizations, because right now they're talking about transformation, SEL, all this stuff. So it's all changing, and they know where they're at today. The CEO of Second Step or Castle, one of those, literally said that the future of our schools will look different than they do today.
Mm-hmm.
And today, like they're transforming everything. So SEL may have been good and clean in the past, but now they're adding more and more.
They start with a really good sounding thing.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when everybody accepts it, then they start
And then
changing. It's like
implemented.
watching any of these, these TV shows, these TV programs. The first
right.
season's
Oh, yeah,
great, very
clean.
pro
Yes.
family.
Yeah.
The next season, you're like, whoa, what
You
happened to
cover
this?
the kids' eyes. You
Right.
know, like,
It's
whoa.
exactly the same thing. All I know is I can look up Second Step program from our headquarters in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah. No, that's
Now,
all
I
needs
know
to-
that I'm cynical, but that's about as far as I needed to go.
Well, this is what I'll challenge the people listening. So when you go look, don't just click on the front page. Like start clicking deeper. And
Yeah.
I go look at their CEO, their board. Then I start clicking their CEO name and searching for interviews, because I want to hear what they're saying. And I want to know where this is going in their mindset. And I can promise you, there's not one person sitting up their board that thinks like me, that thinks I'm a conservative,
Right.
that thinks like, somebody's family values should be protected. Like it's pretty much pushing all this stuff onto our kids. And when we talk about HB 123, the mental health resources that are coming into our schools, like our kids need to be left alone. Like, why can my child not go to school and learn school? That they're talking about, we have so many health issues, in our schools right now. We need this mental health, these counselors. We need social. Well, no crap.
Right.
We chased our kids around with a mask for 2 months and said, if you don't take this shot, you're going to kill your grandmother.
Right.
And so we have created this fear. We've pulled them out. Matter of fact, I was sitting with a very known orthopedic surgeon, and I was asking about, do you feel like football's safe? Because I'm just wondering when my little boy gets a little bit bigger.
Right.
I don't know if I want to play football. Anyway, but that conversation went over to, we just recently did a study, or there's a study put out, and they was talking about during the shutdowns, like kids weren't able to play sports and do activities with friends, and it caused so much emotional harm. So we've created this harm because we shut down everything and kept it going and going, and then we built all this fear.
Right.
And so now they're using this as excuse.
Now they have to fix the problem they created, and they'll
Yes.
create another problem. One thing I want to point out, or I want to ask y'all's opinion about, if we all come along and we say, okay, we want all our children to be, well-adjusted and successful and confident and do well and all this kind of stuff, everyone would agree on that, I guess. They all want their children to do well.
Right.
And be,
Right.
So that's kind of how they sell these things to us.
Right.
Right.
But what does that mean? What does a healthy worldview mean? I'm pretty sure their worldview and my worldview is different.
They want you to take up a social cause and
Right.
raise the banner. That's where it all goes. You can shoot me or whatever, call me a liar, but go read the interviews, go read the material, and at the end of the
Figure
day,
out which social justice category is
and-
your passion, and you go fight for it.
I will tell you,
Devotion
second
to that.
step, the 6th grade material. I've seen it with my own eyes. And matter of fact, we sent 3 communications out to our Board of Education leading up to the vote. And one was a hand-delivered letter. One was a certified mail letter. Another one was an email the day of reminding them, and it had all the data from the Utah parents. And they still voted. Not only did they vote, but the administration stood up in front of the board, in front of the public, and said, we've had such an overwhelming positive response to this material, and I recommend moving forward. And I about dropped that out of my seat. I was like, that's a straight up lie.
Right.
And so they, I rabbit trail a little bit, but so whenever you have, so with the SEL material, like whenever they implement this stuff into our schools, like you said earlier, you can't pull it back out once it's in there. And then that's when that material changes. And so that social justice stuff in the 6th grade material. All right. So Mount Brook's only going to use K through 6.
Okay.
Because 7 and 8 is really nasty. All right. So they know. And then they had coffee talks. All right. So before this, they went to each school and let us all ask questions.
Right.
And they told us there was stuff in the material. And I know of 2 parents that emailed and said, hey, can you just list the lessons and X, we're not going to teach this or teach this. And they refused to do it. They refused to respond. And we was talking about transparency earlier in the ADL stuff, or the No Place for Hate program. If they would have just communicated, a lot of that stuff would have just flown over. If they would have just communicated back, say, hey, these are the 2 or 3 things, the other ones, would be fine, but these are kind of the big whoppers here.
Right.
We're going to remove those. I think parents would be like, okay. But instead
Right.
they
Somebody's
got
looking
defensive.
out for us. Right.
So
Right.
I have a question. If this is happening, and we know that it is across the board,
Yep.
and we have teachers, we have administrators, we have superintendents who are church-going people, who are moral people, why are they okay with this material? Why do more teachers and administrators not say, I am not going to do this?
I think there are a lot of fear and pushing back. In my, not just my church, but every church, I don't know where the pastors are. They are dead silent. And I think half of the churches are woke and the half are not. And so if you ruffle the
Half are woke
feathers,
and the other ones are literally asleep.
you're literally, and
Yeah.
that's the problem is their sleep. Cause that's what we find in Mount Brook, and especially with this recent council race. Parents are like, now what is this again? Can you show me the evidence? Can you,
Right.
like, they're just now finding out, and we've been fighting this for over a year now.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because with this House Bill 123 and the opt-in form that's been going around, I've been doing some.
So what does House Bill 123 do? What is?
So House Bill 123 puts mental health coordinators into every school system,
And they passed it.
and they passed it.
Okay.
And what it does is that mental health coordinator is charged with assessing the mental health of every student in the school system.
Even a kid who no one thinks they have anything wrong.
Yes. So, and then they have to report back to the Alabama Department of Education and the local school boards the mental health status of that school system. And
so a little kid who believes in God, who believes in Jesus and all the traditional values, Christendom, Western civilization, all that kind of stuff, boys are boys, girls are girls, that sort of thing. Does he check the box as mentally ill or mentally right?
Well, that's what's scary about it, because this goes through, and then from there, the local school boards, and it actually says the State Board of Education and the Department of Education can implement new programs to better the mental health of that school system. And my thing is, who defines mental health?
Who defines what is?
Because
What
there is
that?
not
What
a
is healthy?
definition. Is it how you cope? Is it how you feel? Is it your worldview? Is it your relationship with your parents? Is that why we're asking? And so it's very squishy. It's very scary, because how do you can't possibly meet with every child one-on-one.
Right.
So what do? You do surveys. And once these kids start answering all these questions, it sticks with them. Like in sixth grade, Scott has a really bad sixth grade and mentally you're a little unstable. Well, that goes with you through.
Right.
And then the parent or the school can implement all these mental health long-term counseling with a government employee. I mean, I'm sorry. I love our teachers. I love our teachers. But it is not the role of the schools to be into.
I want to know the worldview of the person. So if you had told your daughter she wanted to go to the ball game tonight, and you said, "No, you're not, because you got homework to do."
Right.
She gets the survey, and it says, "Well, how's your relationship with your parents?"
I hate my
Terrible.
parents.
I hate my mom.
They
She-
lock me in a room
That's right.
and won't
let me do
feed
anything
me,
or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
so now that's the
My
that's
dad
the
has
first
20
one.
guns in his safe,
Yeah.
all that.
and it's just, and it's, I can't believe that this is one-sided, because from what I've seen, it's like the conservatives, we're crazy, conspiracy theories. No school counselor would want to indoctrinate. They're not teaching things. And I know for a fact from personal experience that is not true. But if you're on the, okay, what if, and I want to flip the script on everybody and be like, what if you're an atheist? That's your business. I don't care if you're an atheist. I don't care if you're a Muslim. I don't care what you are. But this school counselor was coming in, and they could, talk about Jesus and preach biblical truths. You would be concerned. That's not the role of the school.
But the reason they're not, it's just like the whole tolerance argument, where y'all should be tolerant, y'all should be tolerant, y'all should be tolerant. Now we're in charge, no more tolerance.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not worried about it because they know they're in charge. They know that all these programs are on their side. They know that they are, they're winning. The profit and loss statement, they are profiting. So they're not worried about that.
Well,
the one time it might happen compared to the thousands and thousands that goes the other way.
Right. And so one of the things that's coming out, because this program, these mental health coordinators don't have to be hired till 2023. So one of the things that's coming out are these superintendents and these boards are saying nothing's changing this year, because there's an opt-in form that parents have to sign now that you opt in to each of these services. And so parents are contacting and they're like, what does this mean? Why has this changed? Well, nothing's changed. Technically, that's true. So I started digging into Castle, which is what we use in Shelby County. And if you dig far enough, and that's what I was looking for earlier, you can start looking and you pick up on the language and the verbiage. And there's Robert Jagers is the vice president of research for Castle. And he has this little blog where he talks about basically creating a better world, what you were talking about, that everybody is when there's no oppression in America. He talks about systemic whiteness and oppression in the systems of America. It's really critical race theory, even though critical race theory, and people say it's not in high school. I get it. It's a college level, whatever, but I don't know what else to call it besides divisive concepts. That's what they're getting at. This equity, inclusion, diversity, which in themselves are not bad words. They are good words. They are godly words. Right. But the way that they're being used now is not. It creates hate towards someone else. Yeah. And I really think that that's kind of the goal, is this equitable not equality, but this equitable life for everybody.
And if everybody has a left-leaning worldview, then we'll live in utopia.
which is Marxist
It is.
and communist. And
Right.
if this were the 50s, we would go, wait, what? And we'd do
Right.
something about it.
Right.
But because it's been around so long and it's so embedded in our system now that people can say, oh, no, we're not doing that. They don't even realize it because it's been around so long.
Right.
But this really is so communistic. My husband says, please only use the word Marxist, but it's all
Right.
because he's like,
Yeah, because
it's
they
Marxist.
fully
Yeah.
intend to enforce it. So
This
it's,
is Marxist. This is a utopian vision.
Right.
This
Right.
is exactly what he was after. If you want to read a really good book on the subject, it's called The Naked Communist by Cleon Skousen. It's from the late 50s, and it lays out the 45 tenets that communists are after. And if you look on the part about schools and families, this is exactly what they've been after
Right.
for how many years has it been? And so we must become like you guys are, educated and informed and willing to step out because you're the ones that are making a difference and saying, hang on there, not with my kids. Because you're right. You do what you want to do, but we got to do school in school.
Right.
If nobody's checked, we're at the bottom.
Well, if you think about
And
the
why
things
do they
they
keep
say,
passing this garbage?
Right. And why is the
ignore-
legislature passing
Yeah,
it?
why are they
Right.
doing this?
Well, because that's the way
We get money
they
for it.
it's
want
easy.
this to go.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. You're
honestly, these things don't
You're right.
happen unless you want them to happen. And maybe you get one bill wrong, but this is talk about systemic. This is systemic. This is from the federal level when Biden says on International Social Emotional Learning Day that we have a responsibility as the government to raise your kids with you. The
Right.
heck you do.
Right.
And that's what they're going for is for the government to step in and save everybody from everything.
Right.
And it's not what this country was founded on to be. And it's really terrifying actually. And honestly, I don't, if this is the way public schools are going to go, I'm sorry, I'm tapping out. And I think we will see that more and more. If our leadership wants to send them this way, they have the right to do that. They have the freedom to do that. But they
Well, we
will.
keep
There will
electing
be
them.
what right.
And I have my
And
glasses
they,
on.
and they have to get rid
And
of
they match your
parents.
angel
If you
outfit.
if you listen to the things they say, well, the parents are terrible, the parents are racist, parents are so and so. So let's
Domestic
fix the
terrorists.
children. Yeah, the
Yeah.
parents are domestic terrorists. Let's fix the children, and then your worldview is lost, and the children all become part of this
Right.
mob of.
I mean, this is from 1917.
Okay.
From the Heritage Foundation, but 1970. Communist, he wrote in the manifesto, would rescue education from the influence of the ruling class, making the new man was a priority. Hello, transformation, and the family an obstacle. Alexandra Kolanyi, the Soviets' first People's Commissar for Welfare, put it succinctly when she wrote, "The old family, narrow and petty, where the parents quarrel and are only interested in their offspring, is not capable of educating the new person." And Soviet schools even encouraged students to snitch on their parents, which is in my piece this week. But that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
How's your relationship with your parents?
Yeah.
Question
My
number
mom's
8.
So mean.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go to the game tonight.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, going back to the bill itself, HB 123, the part that you guys had pretty much amended in that law was allowing that under 14, you had the right to opt in to these services. And so when you look at like schools around the community, they've been able to do an opt-out form or opt-in, right? It's not an opt-out.
Right.
So it starts at 0 people and they have to opt in for the services. And so it's they're supposed to break down each level of service.
Right.
And then, so in our school system, like everybody around us got it right. Hoover, Shelby
Vestavia
County,
did
Vestavia did a fantastic job. Homewood was so-so.
Right.
But Mountain Brook, the original draft was an opt-out. And so the administration was presenting that to the board, and we'll get on that in a second. But me and another parent was sitting there listening to this, and he was the one that actually helped write some of that bill.
Right.
And we were looking at each other like
Wait,
I was like, wait, I've got to go back, reread what you wrote.
Right.
Like, what's going on? What's the intent?
Right.
And so we pushed back, and we had one of our legislators, that parent, superintendent, and another administrator from the school meet. And they said, this isn't right. It's not the intent. And so they's like, well, actually, they pushed back on that. So they redrafted it. And then we was back at the next board meeting and it was presented. And they's like, well, after our attorney and 2 other attorneys read over this is what we came up with. So one of the things they made was an opt-in. All right. So that was one of the changes, but it's still nowhere near like what it should be, what the intent of the law is.
Right. And they're just going to ignore it.
If it wasn't for 2 parents sitting in that room, Mountain Brook would have opt-out and nobody even know.
Right. And
So
and all the parents would think that's the way it's supposed to be.
Nobody knows because nobody's challenged or asking questions. And that's kind of where Mountain Brook Families has come in. Because if you look at some of the things that we've been able to do, so we had that corrected. And that's still an ongoing conversation, by the way. Because
It's still not right.
No, it's not right. And ducks are getting
But there's
lined
no
up.
recourse.
No, I mean, there's
Right.
There'll be another conversation, I promise.
Okay, good.
So, but when you look at what Mountain Brook Families has been able to do overall, like that's one of the things. Well, we would have never known about that or the communication because for so long we'd go to the board meetings and they'd say, "Hey, resolution, blah blah blah, I, blah blah blah, I." We're like, well, where do they talk about this stuff? All they do is I, just vote it through. Well, when the Board of Education position came up, we had one of our board members run for that position. And so during that's when we found out there was actually pre-work sessions.
Yeah, like an executive.
But this is
that's
actually
really
Scott
me.
Beeson's fault.
Yes.
You need to
thanks,
confess.
Partially.
Thanks.
Because there
Years ago.
You want to tell it on air? Come on.
Yeah,
confess.
I'm fine with it because
Okay.
I was part of. I'm almost positive I was part of it. But years ago, there was legislation. It was one of these, and they do it all the time in Montgomery. It's like, hey, we're going to we got to revamp this whole thing. The school boards are for it. The superintendent's for it. All the education people are for it. Everybody's for it. It's great. It's fantastic. It's awesome. It's going to improve education. And everybody's like, okay, fine. It's like 500 pages or whatever.
Yeah.
Great. Pass it because it's all agreed to. And that turned out to be the legislation that somewhere in there, it said that school boards basically don't have the power to bring anything up during their meetings. It all has to come down from the superintendent. So the only recourse that a school board has is to basically, if the superintendent's not bringing the things they want, is to get rid of them. And so then you get into all the contractual obligations and all this kind of stuff. And when we realized what had happened, the big mistake was believing the education family, who was purely just consolidating power. Is that enough confession?
I mean, I think that's what we see across with all of them. I mean, the board are really have very little
They can
power.
just say yay
It
or
is the
nay on what the
superintendent.
super does.
I mean, I had a board member from Shelby County tell me that they have only disagreed with our superintendent one time on one recommendation. And I'm like, that's not healthy
Right.
at all. We're supposed to
Wow.
have different opinions and value those opinions and bring different
At
things to the
least
table.
question.
At least be able to have a dialogue.
Right.
Well, dialogues are had and they're supposed to be announced public.
Yeah.
So we knew about the board meetings, but we didn't know about the work session meetings. And so during that whole interview process, that's when we found out when they discussed things and they were not publishing these meetings. So that's a violation of the Alabama Open Door Act or whatever the policy is. And so we brought this up in May to some of the board members. It wasn't posted in June. We brought it back up again and they lose like their indemnity. There's protection or something with that. So when they're meeting, it's not posted. So you can go back, look at the Mountain Brook calendar. I went all the way back to 2018. The work sessions were not being posted.
Right.
And so if it wasn't for 2 parents sitting there watching and seeing what's going on, we would have never known. So now we go to the pre-work meetings and they happen at 2:00. The III meeting happens at 3:30. And so if you want to hear about the decisions that are being made, we go to that. We go to that meeting now. And so we would have never known. And so that's when I hear the communicate. I would have never heard, we would have never been able to push back on that HB 123. And what that is a direct violation of our parents or the parents' rights.
Right.
You know, what do I want
it's
from my children?
Against the law.
Yes,
in
against the
terms
law.
of like you had it wrong. You were breaking
And
the law.
Mountain Brook would have never known.
Right.
And so we didn't take anything away from anybody. We just gave the parents the right to make that decision.
Right.
And so we was able to push back ADL. We pushed back on the second step, although it was now I know where to go to the meetings now because the administration can sit down there and say whatever they want. But now I can go to the real meeting.
So let me ask, and I've given you a hard time a little bit, just the Mountain Brook thing, but if these kinds of things happen in Mountain Brook, no, I'm being serious. No, I'm being serious now, because if this happens in Mountain Brook,
That's right.
I mean, look at Scott.
right. Look at
Actually, you're fancy today.
Thank you.
Yes,
I tucked my gold chain in. It's rope.
Right. It's really heavy. It keeps slunking down. If
My Flavor
Yeah.
block.
if this can happen in Mountain Brook, though, I'm being serious.
Yeah.
Where parents are involved in their children's education, they care about
That's
what
right.
happens to their children. They're involved. No one can say, "Oh, my school system's not doing well" or whatever, because parents don't care. I mean, this is where people absolutely care.
That's right.
Imagine what is happening in the school districts across the state where
There's no parent
no
involvement.
parents involved.
Yeah.
The walls are even higher, bigger.
Yeah.
You have to drive, 40 miles across the county
Yeah.
just to go to a school board meeting, if you know where the school board headquarters even is. So, I mean, it's kind of depressing that y'all are having to fight that fight in
Yeah.
the best school system in the state,
In the state.
that you would think would be responsive to the people.
Right.
So now I'm even more concerned about the rest of the state than I was before.
Well, and I always kind of look to Mountain Brook, Vestavia, and see what is about to trickle down.
Yeah.
And it just kind of slowly spreads from these centers and these.
I can tell you Vestavia's leadership does it right. They do
Yeah.
it right. When I look at what Vestavia is doing with their counselors, with the opt-out, opt-in forms,
Right.
they pretty much are leading the way with what's going right,
That's
which is
encouraging.
That is good.
yeah.
So, but you all realize somewhere along the way that really, if you're going to, because Shelby County, we elect our school board members, yours are appointed. So to change the school board, well, apparently really you need to change the superintendent, but you all have people that are running for city council, which is
Yes.
huge.
Well,
Huge.
we don't. We're
Well,
but
you have
parents raise their
like-minded
hand.
parents
100%,
that have
yes.
stepped
Okay.
up to
for their calling.
right.
So if to put it in a big picture, all right. So ADO happened. We didn't get any response from the schools. Went across the street that same night to the city hall meeting. They kind of like, oh, we just appoint, and then afterwards we don't have anything to do with them.
Right.
And there's even candidates around right now saying that's only 1% of the job description or whatever. But it's a huge percentage of the job description. But anyway, you get pushback. So we didn't have anybody's like, well, the board and the superintendent, we don't have any accountability. Like we want some accountability. Where's the help? So nobody's helping the parents. And then you look at what transpired from there. So then all the masking stuff came through, and we've got the data where let the parents make the decision. Do you want to mask, whatever? But we got data when Delta come at the beginning of that school year. It was July. It was like right here,
Right.
and then September it hit up here, and it's an up mask. And then we knew the curve was going to do this
Right.
and this. I don't wear a bow tie, and I don't have a MD, but I am smart enough to look at data.
Right.
And I was looking at other data of countries ahead of us.
Right.
Right. And so when it goes up, it goes down. So we knew it was going up, it's going down. So we went up and we got back to this point that was level where they said wear mask.
Right.
And then we got to this point back before school started where they said no mask.
Right.
And then we got down here and we like, take the freaking mask off.
Right.
It's over.
Right.
And so when we got out for Christmas, the week before, I went and had a meeting with a couple of boards and superintendent. I had all my data and I showed them Delta.
Right.
And then off the Mountain Brook School's website, I had the presentation from like Children's Hospital and UAB where Delta's coming. It's going to kill the kids. We're going to have 13,000 cases per day. All the kids are going to the hospital. I had hospital data and all that. And I showed it. I said, how much longer do we have to continue to follow these people that keep telling us
Who've been completely wrong?
they've been wrong every single time.
Yep.
And, so I don't want to come back to school wearing masks.
Right.
And then I laid out the whole conversation piece about the vaccines that everybody's had a chance to get vaccinated. You've got yours. Why did you get yours? They was telling me, well, not you, but people sitting around me.
Right.
They told me why. I was like, so if you have the vaccine, can you get sick? Yes. Well, you go to the hospital? Maybe not.
Right.
If I don't have it, I still get sick. I might go to the hospital.
Right. Maybe not. Right.
If you have it, can you spread it? Yes. If I have it, can I spread? So the only one at risk here is the person not getting a vaccine.
Right.
And we had the vac shot clinic at the school.
Right.
So everybody's made an adult decision, yes or no. Right. So when we come back, the only ones at risk are the ones that made the adult decision not to take it for whatever reason.
And
so
did they keep the policy?
I don't want to take claim that we didn't wear masks, but we didn't come back in masks.
Right.
I don't know what decision was made.
It was
there.
one of y'all schools that was the most militant when we went to play
No,
basketball. By
us. It was us in Homewood. First one to mask, the last one to take it off.
right.
Every time. And so you had all that going on, and then you had last year around October, there's a law that was passed earlier in the year where you can get the elections for the cities all on the same schedule. So they pushed ours. They voted to push it back. We had one council person that stood up and said no, because some of it was going to extend another year. And so we knew we needed this election to get a chance because we had 3 seats coming up.
Right.
And they pushed all that back a year. So now all hell's hit the roof.
Right.
You said hell.
Yeah. Tis
Late. Oh, gosh.
Right.
Get out.
I probably need to go sit down some of those
You're
no
not
place
from
for hate
Mountain
classes.
right.
But so anyway, big uprising. You know, again, here we are. You know, and so David Faulkner actually had to come in and explain the process and said, actually, what happened was all this, and said, but we're not going to change. We're going to have elections. And I said, okay, because it was all extended.
Okay.
So here,
So then who has stepped up? You have who are challenging the incumbents?
So we have Kent Osmond is challenging Pritchard. He's been there
Okay.
for 22 years. You have Graham that's running for the open seat,
Graham Smith. Okay.
and then you got Chris Pawanda running against her.
Right.
All right, and his was going back to some of this abuse and stuff. His wife has a family in Mount Brook, and when the ADL stuff hit, because of his stance, people was calling to boycott his wife's Mountain Brook business. All right, and that's when one of the rabbis called him and told him, this isn't the Jewish community doing this.
Right.
The Jews knows what boycotts are,
Right.
and the Jewish community doesn't boycott.
Not doing this. Right.
And that kind of opened the whole door up to us talking with the Jewish community and all that
Right.
because he reached out
That's
for
good.
Chris. And then the other seat is Tate Davis and Lloyd Shelton. And then you have Pritchard and Kent Osborne.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Good deal. So how do people get in touch with you? How do they get in touch with your organization?
Oh, God. Well, it depends. who's
Not
calling.
you.
How do
No,
they, how do they
mountainbrookfamilies.org?
find out
No, I'm
about
Only
Mountain
just
Brook
said
Families?
like, well done.
No, it
Well, no,
depends.
y'all have a
No.
website.
No, I was just saying it depends what they want.
Right. No, if they want to get in touch with you to be involved and help and try to have
If they
oversight
wanna give $1
and
million
make their community better.
Well, we'll only take outside dark money. So,
San Francisco money, right?
yeah, we need something from the West Coast. Callie, where you at? So, but no, we have Mount Brook Families website. We have, emails on there. That's how you can reach out, find us. But we're pretty much, everybody in our organization is from Mountain Brook. All of our money comes from Mountain Brook. We all literally met on the courthouse steps of Mountain Brook.
Right.
And so,
It's truly a grassroots.
Yeah, it's
I mean, I
grassroots.
feel like
I'm really impressed.
Yeah.
I'm
Very much
and
so.
y'all
proud
are
of
doing
what y'all
some
are
amazing
doing.
things.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
My son says, you know what, Mom, if you have haters, that means you're doing something. So stay strong, and just keep going. And in the end, who knows how this plays out? I don't know. I don't know if we win, quote,
Yeah.
but we don't give up. And we keep going ahead. So
Yeah.
thank you for being
Absolutely.
here.
Good
you so
luck to you. And
Thanks
thanks
for
for
having
coming
us.
and being with us.
Yeah, it's fun.
Can you finish your coffee? You
I
haven't
didn't
had
even
any
drink
of
it. I just
and
want-
it sat
I
on the
just
table
wanted-
this
When
whole
we're
time.
done, I'll get
There's
some.
there's literally a ring.
I
It's
just
been
wanted
sitting
the
for an hour.
coffee because I know it drives you crazy.
Just
That is the
hurry.
only reason
Chug
I
it.
wanted it.
Well,
Go.
I got to say goodbye first.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
You wanna
Okay.
do it?
Nope.
That is a wrap for this week's Alabama Unfiltered. Thank you for watching. Tell other people about it. Give us a thumbs up, 5 stars, all those kinds of things, and we appreciate you. See y'all.